Pennsylvania.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library in Massachusetts. I'm really thrilled to be here with our host, Jeff DePaoli of That Halloween podcast, who's been doing this series all year long. And it's super fun, all about haunted experiences throughout mostly New England, but sometimes just anywhere that's really interesting. And we're here with Alexandra De Collibus from Halloween New England, and they will be chatting all about what Alexandra does to make sure that the word gets out about all of the amazing scary things that go on in New England. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting all of our programs, and to Jeff and Alexander who let us share this program with other libraries because, without working together, we're kind of on our own. And it's much more fun to work with your friends, right? So Jeff, take it over, and I will see you all in an hour. Thanks, Mina.
Sounds good. Well, welcome everybody. I see we got Salem, Massachusetts in the house, Westport, Connecticut, Bellingham, Massachusetts. We got Hampton, New Hampshire, West Newbury, people from all over, Swampscott. So thank you for joining, everybody. If you've been joining throughout the year, you'll know that if you have questions for Alexandra during this session, feel free to leave a question in the Q&A tab, not the chat tab. At the end, about the last 10 minutes or so, we'll check the Q&A tab there and answer some questions. So feel free to use that. And if you have been joining all year long, typically we kind of deep dive into a haunted attraction of some sort. Today's a little bit different. Today, we're actually looking at a resource, a Halloween resource for fans of Halloween events. And let's just start. Alexander, hello and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Jeff, I'm a huge fan of your series. I hope that everyone here has had a chance to sit in and, check out your series every single month. I've been following the whole year long, and I'm so honored to be a part of it. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you've been joining, and you've asked some fantastic questions along the way, and I encourage everybody else to as well. But since this is a little bit different, let's start off by, can you describe what Halloween New England is?
I mean, at its basic, it is a website that has is really a resource for all the Halloween events in the 6 New England states. So in case you're wondering if you're from outside New England, New York is not part of New England. Let's just get that out of the way. Occasionally even a New Englander will get that wrong, but it is 2,500 Halloween events throughout the year. The bulk of that being during the fall season, and another 400 Halloween attractions. So we're talking everything from ghost tours to pumpkin festivals, haunted houses, haunted hay rides, costume contests, jack-o'-lantern, festivals, you name it. It really runs the gamut. And as I'm sure we'll talk about today, there's a really wide spectrum of what is considered something that is a Halloween event or a Halloween experience at this time of year.
Absolutely. And one of the cool things about this webinar series, as well as your website, is most people are probably fans, right? They're looking for stuff to experience and enjoy, which is lovely and which your site can do. But it's also there for businesses and people who are, throwing Halloween events. And I'd love to touch on that a little bit as well. What do you do so it's a resource for folks to go to and find out. And we'll get into the website in a little bit. But if it's a business looking to help promote, how exactly do you work with businesses?
I mean, it could be a business or it could be a local, community event producer. There's a lot of local community events that are just trying to get the word out about their, outdoor horror movie, or a costume festival that they're putting on, a costume parade. Sometimes it's a fundraiser. It doesn't necessarily need to be a business, but I work with all kinds of people to try to help support their event or their attraction in the variety of ways that, that it presents itself. So it could be anything from listing them on the website to, including pictures or getting the word out through our social media channels. I mean, I really look at myself as a neutral party in this. I'm really here to help champion the Halloween event producers and attractions that, which again could be anything from a local farm that puts on a pumpkin patch to somebody who is really in it, for profit, to put on a particular kind of attraction. Again, it really runs the gamut. And I look at myself as just the person to help facilitate getting the word out, connecting people to fans, connecting people to even just a mom looking for some place to drop off her teenagers for the night. So my hope is that the site provides opportunities for really everybody, whether they're kind of super fans or a business, trying to get the word out and make sure that they connect to people.
Fantastic. And let's just take a little peek at what it is that Halloween New England does. Here's just a kind of brief overview of some of the events in the New England area. Oh, the sliders. You gotta love the sliders, right?
I'm ready for Halloween. How about you?
I've been ready for a very long time. It's funny actually on I'm doing a shameless plug even though I'm not intending to, but on that Halloween podcast, one of the rapid fire questions I have this year at the end for each of my guests is what is the perfect date to start celebrating the Halloween season? And several of my guests have said November 1st, getting ready for the next year.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? It truly
Is
is
there a
a year.
start date?
What was that?
Is there a start date? Is there an end date? I'm not sure. It
I
really,
know it's just always.
yeah.
But let's talk about. I'd love to hear how did this begin for you? How did Halloween New England become so much of your life?
I mean, the simplest answer, like for anybody who starts a lot of ventures, I think it's a really common story that you don't have your own needs met. So you kind of decide to do it yourself. You know, I'm a very organized person, and so it really just was so frustrating when I was trying to find particular Halloween events or haunted attractions or find information about schedules. And I just felt like, you know, well, one, you sort of only find who rises to the top of Google. You don't get to necessarily get a full sense of everybody who's out there. So that was one thing that I was hoping to solve, is put all the things kind of in one place, one bucket. It also the resources that were out there were primarily focused, I would say, on haunted attractions, but even those, and again, I'll just speak at that time that I created Halloween New England, I felt like they just weren't very organized for me. I felt like I couldn't find what I was looking for. I would go to something that had, specifically was focused on Connecticut, but it would have things from New Hampshire in there. It was just sort of all over the map. And I just found it, again, just for me, it wasn't useful. It was a lot of flashing lights and blinking everything. It just was kind of stressful. Like I didn't want to be on those sites digging and digging harder than I had to. So, real mission for me was to put everything in one place and to make sure it was easy to find and in categories that made sense to people. I wanted the site to be intuitive. And the site that we have now is really what I call like website 2.0. It, went through an overhaul about 4 years ago. So this is the latest iteration of it, which is in a lot of ways a dream. It really pulled together all the things I was trying to do with the old site and kind of pulled it in with a new interface, a new layout, new kind of tone and quality to it. And it just has everything that I could hope for. And essentially, the way it's built is it's kind of powered by two databases. There's the event database, which has the, 2000 plus Halloween events kind of loaded into the database. And then this other one, which is the attractions. And I really distinguish them as attractions are really standalone businesses. So for example, one distinction is like a haunted attraction that is a for-profit business at an independent location would be considered an attraction, and they're in the attraction database. They might be on the haunt guide for their particular state. And then if there's like a local yard haunt or a fundraiser haunt, that's sort of a one-off, right? It's not a business necessarily, but it is an important community event and they're doing great work. They might even been around for a few decades doing their community event. And that would be considered an event and that would show up on the calendar instead of the haunt guide. So, a lot of the site just is about making those decisions about what falls into what category and then making sure it's presented in a way that, again, is intuitive for people to find and is just really useful with everything that they really need to know to kind of have the information and then get up and go. And it's research.
Yeah, you hit.
I mean, at the heart of it, it's research. It's like, even from day one that I started it, it's how do I research absolutely everything that's out there and really vetting it to make sure, is it a pro attraction? Is it a community attraction? What is the admission price this year? Where are they located? Has their location changed? What kind of an event is it? Like, it is at its heart, 12 months of research every single year and updating everything, confirming everything. So I try not to have old information on there. I make sure all those events have been updated. So it's, if I have 2,500 Halloween events, I have personally through the year, like, confirm that these are the dates for this year, or this is the information for this year, this is the location. I make sure that if people are, going to Halloween New England, that they're getting accurate information to kind of get up and go. Sometimes places don't even have websites to link to. So in some ways, I might be their only way of getting the word out.
Yeah, and I can vouch for everything you just said. I know that you put so much time and research into all of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but people can submit themselves, correct? If they have an event?
They can. I would say probably 0.5% of what you see on the site has been submitted. Even events, I do get event submissions every year, but it's, a tiny, tiny fraction. Really, it's me seeking it out, confirming, what's new, finding a new event, adding it into the database. It's just really, really labor intensive. And that is what I work on. I would say I start confirming events in May, and then I just plug away at it. My database is just like, it's really, really intense. And I just go one by one. And if something hasn't been confirmed yet, I go back again the next month and see if it's been confirmed. Not yet. I go back again the next month and I just plug away at it until I can update it on there and put it on there. And sometimes people submit their things and I think, oh, I already have that on there. I already got to it first, I try
But
not to
still,
keep
I think that's
about it.
I think that's important for people to hear. I think that if anybody watching is involved with the haunt in any way, I mean, you should, if it's in New England, you should be in the database. So submit it. It should be much more than 0.5% or whatever you said. It
Yeah.
should be, everybody should be submitting to Halloween New England. You'll make Alexandra's life a little easier, but also you want to make sure that your event is on the website. So I think that that's great. I think, like you said, a lot of people do think haunted houses when they think Halloween season. There is so much more to offer, but let's just take a quick peek at some of the haunted houses that are around. Whoops, that's the same one. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
That video makes me so happy.
It's a little
I love haunted attractions so much. And I just look at those places, and those are places that are so dear to my heart. The haunted attractions of New England you can see I'm glowing. Honestly, it makes me so happy. I love I love going to them. I love supporting them. Those are just the hardest working people in the industry. And there's just so much heart that they pour into those events. And I just, reliving that even on the video makes me smile.
Me as well. Well, let's go to your website. If you don't mind, why don't you share your screen and
Sure.
let's visit HalloweenNewEngland.com and show folks how they can find all of these different events and haunts that are going around. And yeah, basically show them how easy it is to use the website. I mean, right at the top, you can see it. Those are the 6 New England states:
Yeah.
Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont. So
So
everything is split
yeah.
up.
You can, go this way, right? You can go by the drop-down menus. And of course, we're on the desktop site. The mobile site looks a little bit different. The mobile site works a little bit more like this particular drop-down menu. But, you can also just click on a particular location, haunted houses, go to Massachusetts, and you can see we've got all the pro haunted attractions in Massachusetts here. And if you click on, something here, you've got some pictures, you have descriptions, you'll have their calendar, any special events. I mean, Barrett's happens to have a ton of special events here, links to more information about it, where you can buy tickets. So, there's a variety of ways. So for example, if you love ghost tours, you can, check those out. One thing I really love are horror movie screenings. There's a ton of horror movie screenings, and these are not the ones like first run horror movie screenings. These are things like The Omen film screening in a church, which I will be at, by the way. So, it could be anything from various Rocky Horror. It could be indoors, outdoors, drive-in movies. One thing that I always love seeing, I think it's in Massachusetts, which is there's a lot of like silent films, like Nosferatu with live musical accompaniment is one thing that I've really kind of seen an increase at. There's a few different states that you'll see people will play like they'll have an organ, an organist who's playing the organ during a movie, or a quartet that has composed something to go along with a silent film. Even unusual things like this that I'm going to be headed to, the Edward Scissorhands is reimagined into a ballet, and it's going to be screened at a local movie theater in 4 different theaters across New England.
Saw that many years ago in LA, live on stage at the
Yeah,
Dorothy Chandler Pavilion.
yeah, I cannot wait to see it. Cannot wait to see it. And even things like this, we've got some horror cons coming up, some horror festival this weekend, so we'll be there too. So these are the kinds of things that I just absolutely love. You've got again, family-friendly Halloween events, so you can go to different different types of guides that'll sort of break it down. One of the things here that you can do is if you go to, since we're talking about haunted attractions, if you click on the haunt guides, if you want to know who's already open for the season, or if you want to get somewhere early, you can head over to here to the haunt guides. If you want to go to an event like a no scare event, some haunted houses will have events that are strictly no scare. So they won't have actors in them, no jump scares, nothing like that. But they usually have sound and fog, and the lights are on, and you can just kind of experience it. And those can be a little bit hard to find. So I compile them into a guide by state, so you can see exactly, where things are happening there. And another thing too is, even just from the homepage, if you click on, any one of these icons, it's another nice way just to check things out. So if I go to all events, let's go to Connecticut here. You can see just a variety of Halloween events that are coming up. We'll always have some top picks or certain things highlighted. And again, you can even search by the dates if you know that you're coming in from out of state or from another, another part of the world. Even sometimes we'll, check this out, and they can really zero in on what's going to be in their area. A cool thing too is if you click on the name of a state, you can find dots for all of the events that are, all of the attractions that are in this area. So the purple ones might be a featured event, but all of these little gray dots are different Halloween attractions. And then you'll see a list of like upcoming upcoming featured Halloween events in New Hampshire. But you can scroll between states, you can click on something here, and see what it is. It's really nice if you're going on a road trip or you're going to be, let's say, at a wedding somewhere and you want to see what's going to be happening this weekend. It's a great way to kind of see what's in your area. So these are, some of the ways that we've compiled all that information that is in those databases and tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. Because, some people are looking for ideas, some people are looking for road trips, some people, are going to a place like, let's say they're a haunted house fan. They're going to, let's say they live in Connecticut, they're a haunted house fan, and they think, I want to go to every haunted house this season in the state of Massachusetts. And so they're going to have a list of every place that they can go, directions to all of that. And then that, just makes their planning easier. So that's kind of the gist of the website. It's really fun to kind of poke around, pumpkin patches, ghost tours, you name it, all the good stuff, that people love. And I think people will be surprised by the variety of events that are offered. There's just, it's really not just trick-or-treating or scary things. There's just so much out there that really falls under the Halloween or horror or scary guide. There's just a lot going on.
Absolutely. And I just on this page, right? I was going to say, go
Sorry.
back to that. Share that again for a second, because you hit on something important, and I always say it. I say it's my favorite holiday because there's something for everyone. And right there under pick your poison: haunted houses, haunted hay rides, horn mazes, haunt guides, ghost tours, horror movies, pumpkin patches, costume stores, family events, Halloween near me. Like, it's a nice selection of things. There is no everybody can celebrate Halloween, is my point. There is something for everyone, and your site just really delivers that so nicely. So
yeah, I mean,
that's
if you're that
fantastic.
mom looking for somewhere to drop off your teenager and you don't know, maybe you don't care about Halloween, right? You are just literally looking to find something in your area. You go to Halloween near me, you punch in your zip code, it's going to show you what events are coming up near you and then what attractions are in your region. So, you don't even have to have a preconceived idea of what you're looking for. It's great for browsing. But if you are a super fan of a particular type of event, if you love ghost tours and you want to check them all out, there's a way to just zero in on the ghost tours in Rhode Island or the ghost tours in New Hampshire and, really, really, make the most of it.
And is there a way to check by date? Like, say I'm driving through New Hampshire on a very, I have one day, I'm there. Is there
Yeah.
a way to do that?
So if you're in New Hampshire, you would just punch in that date here and then click go on the cauldron, and it's going to narrow it down to the date range that you are.
That's fantastic. So if you're driving through on a Wednesday, right? Like, most of them are weekend events, but I'm sure there are a handful that are open. So once again, a fantastic resource for that. I loved what you said about if you're going to a wedding, find a haunt. It reminded me,
Oh, yeah.
my sister got married in, I think it was Neshoba Valley, which is right near Witch's Woods. Have
Yep.
you ever gone to Witch's Woods?
I sure have. Yep.
Yeah, I actually worked there as a character when I was like in, I don't know, high school or
I
something.
didn't know that about you.
And- yeah, I worked a year there. And I just remember after my sister's wedding, which was like down the street from there, I'm like, I'm gonna go to Witch's Woods. And I think I went in a full-on suit and everything to Witch's Woods.
Yeah. I
But
mean, look, you have a choice. You can either get rid of the people in your life who have weddings in the fall, which is certainly, on the table for some people who are super fans. Because if you're somebody like me, your family and your friends, they know, don't even ask. Don't ask Alexandra if she's available to go do this in October. Don't ask her in September. She's out of state traveling for Halloween events. And my team, much the same way. I think there's one of our team members, Lisa, her boyfriend put on his calendar something to the effect of like, don't even ask Lisa, she's gone for all of these weekends for the month of October. And, there is a negotiation because this is the thing that we're passionate about. The season is kind of fast and furious. We pack as much in as possible. And, the goal is to just, soak it all up. And you do have to kind of like set everything else aside, while we're running this sprint.
now, one thing I found very much so in Southern California, tell me if this is true in the New England area or not, but I'm seeing a lot more stuff popping up around the year.
Yeah.
Is your website keeping up with that sort of stuff as well?
Yes. So, I mean, I would say I'm not as aggressive about seeking those events out because it could be just a dead end road. At that time of year, you could do a lot of research in March, but how much is going to necessarily come across your radar? I would say that is more me gathering events through osmosis. Maybe somebody will tip me off to something happening in the off season. But Halloween New England, probably had its biggest off season this year. And I really consider Halloween season from Labor Day until mid-November. That's really what I consider the kind of crush of the Halloween season. But this has been, so the preseason basically from, January until the end of August. It's been our biggest year. I'd say the traffic to the site doubled this off season. It's been a huge year for off season events. You can really just see that traffic to the site spike. Even in May, there were a lot of halfway to Halloween events this year. It's not uncommon that you'll see maybe a ghost tour or haunted attraction doing like a Valentine's Day themed, scary event or things around the holidays. There's a haunted attraction in Connecticut that will even do something around Easter. Friday the 13th now, wherever that falls during the calendar year, tends to be, something that people circle to kind of make a celebration out of it. And, of course, this idea of summerween, of Halloween events and spooky things going on throughout the summer is just, it's just keeps continuing to grow. My 97-year-old grandmother even read in the local paper, because of course she gets the paper delivered still. And, she just got such a kick out of the fact that there was something called Summerween, and that people are thinking about summer events. I'm thinking, of course, like that's what I've been doing, in May and June, is trying to check out these events. And, I'll just even say here, the Ashland Library in particular has been really wonderful at offering events that are related to haunts or horror year round. I mean, I've been to horror makeup demonstrations in the month of July at the Ashland Library. I've been to horror book mini fests that they run. They're doing, a monster romance book fest this weekend. Like they're really kind of, I think, tapping into the number of people who really who love this stuff, and they seek it out if it's around. They don't relegate it to just the fall months. They're just happy to go. If it's around, they're going to go seek it out. And I really commend people like the Ashland Library in particular for recognizing that there's a real need and an interest for things like that. Again, haunts and ghost tours, lots of people who do these off-season stuff. There's a real need and an interest for that. It doesn't need to be during September and October.
And of course, they do this every month. So there you go.
I
Year
know.
round.
This is like the perfect example, right? 12 months out of the year, we've got something related to horror, Halloween, or spooky season. And it's such a great way to stay connected to what we love.
Yeah, I just want to tell a quick story to showcase the meticulous research that you do. I was in Salem, I don't know, this was a few months ago. When was it? May or something. And I get a text from you. You saw that I was in Salem and you're like, hey, can you swing by this Black Craft Haunt, which was featured, I think, last month on this live stream series. And you're like, I'm trying to find some more info about it. I know part of the year they have actors, part of the year they don't. And you simply asked me to swing by and talk to them, which I did. But like, that's next level, right? I think most people running a site like this that calls itself comprehensive really, Googles the info and they'll just repeat what they put there. But you're making phone calls, you're reaching out, and
Yeah.
it's the amount of time that goes into all of the stuff you do is honestly next level insane to a point.
Well, thank you. And I do want it to be that way. I mean, I feel like, I think a real distinction for, and we'll talk, I'm sure, a bit about how we go see events or how the team kind of spreads out and divides and conquers. But, a real key thing for us is visiting as many events as possible firsthand. So there's nothing wrong with a press release, and press release is sometimes how, rarely, but occasionally is how I will find out about an event for the first time. And that's fine. I mean, it's a great way to get information, but truthfully, I'm not going to take things that I read in a press release kind of at face value. If I'm interested in something, I want to go see it for myself. I want to check it out. I want to, I'm curious about these things. I'm really not here to just regurgitate information that is already around. I'm here to provide a little more context, and specifically, I guess I would say that I do that more through the social media is really the channel that we try to provide a little bit more kind of highlighting certain things, showcasing where we've been, letting people know where we're going to go. And, us taking the time to go to those events is in its own way a signal that it's, it has, if it's caught our eye, right, with everything available to us, we know where everything is happening. If it's caught our eye and we make the effort to go and be there in person, my hope is that it signals to people who love Halloween and who are following Halloween New England social media that it's probably worth your time too. So that's a good clue. There's no shortage of places that we can go. There's, no shortage of demand for where people want us to be, but we have to be very discerning about what is, how can we make the most of a weekend trip to Maine? How can we make the most of visiting Western Connecticut? How can we, we're getting hotel rooms, we're driving, hundreds of miles. We, are hitting sometimes 3 events in a night, sometimes 6 or 7 events in a weekend. And that sometimes is just one person. So occasionally we could maybe even have like 9 or 10 events between the team in a given weekend. We really pack it in and we start planning that in July. So so sometimes the tricky part is those later events we don't always get to include because they came around a little too late to squeeze in. But, being kind of boots on the ground and seeing these things for ourselves is the best way that I can, not only kind of take Halloween to people who are following on social media, who are really looking for ideas and want to get kind of the true view, I would say. And we're not here to review anything. We really are here to get a sense of what's happening in our community, in the Halloween community, in the haunt community. What is happening at local farms? What sort of things are they doing to add to their, season and keep people coming beyond apple season or, at other times of the year? And how can we, or businesses like, a brewery that does a horror movie night or a horror trivia. These are things that people are, taking the time to create. And I want to make sure that people show up to that. I want them to be given their due. And if I can, visit as many of these things as possible, to me, that's my time is really precious during the season. And I do want to kind of be as knowledgeable as possible. And the best way to do that is to do it myself, be there personally.
Absolutely. Folks, I do want to remind you, if you have any questions for Alexandra, be sure to put them in the Q&A. Now, you've touched on your team a bit already, but let's take a peek at what your team gets up to during the season. I think that, there we go, street team.
Spooktacular. Here at the Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular. Hey there, it's Becky with the Halloween New England Suite, and tonight you are in for a special treat. Hey everyone, it's Lisa with the Halloween New England Street Team, and I am here at the Palmer 13th World Pride Park with
Satan!
With Satan! We are here. Where are we? And hi, Alexandra!
Perfect. So, how many people are on your team? Because you're hitting all 6 states, right?
Yeah, so we have 3 primary people who are kind of dividing and conquering, four, I would say, if you include myself. So me, Becky, and Lisa, who've been kind of on the team the longest. And then we have Rachel, who was added in last year, and Corey as well, who's so helpful kind of behind the scenes and, in so many ways. And then, of course, like if we expand the team, we've got the website developer who's in Minnesota, the person who designed the website who's in New Hampshire. So, I mean, I really look at everybody as a huge contributor to, making this site come to be. I'm the only one who works on it year round, but I mean, they are, we do have to divide and conquer. Everybody has their piece of it. And, to be totally clear, this site would be nothing without this team. I may do the research in the off season, but the thing that makes Halloween New England really sing and make it really, has really brought it to the next level is the team. It's the people who are, going out there, again, dedicating their October, doing very much what I'm doing, which is being boots on the ground, talking to event producers and owners and customers and fans and, not just representing Halloween New England, but learning about the industry, figuring out how we can support them, going to, theatrical performances and, all these kinds of things that really, again, just show that full scope of what is Halloween in New England. And they really make it all come to be.
Was that something that you always have been doing since the beginning, was like going out and visiting and making that part of the business? Or was it really just beginning as a website and then eventually?
Yeah. I mean, it was a solo operation for a long time, for most of it. And yes, I mean, I was, creating the website, but of course I really created it because I was trying to find these things for myself, right? So like, it would be a shame if I didn't kind of take all this knowledge and go out and take advantage of what it is that I've been sort of planning and preparing for the whole season. But, interestingly, I met Becky and Lisa while I was visiting a haunted attraction in Rhode Island, 13th World. And I was going there through by myself, like I frequently do go to events by myself, because again, we have to divide and conquer. But in this case, I was the only one, to go anywhere. And I'm showing up on a Friday night and I go to this haunt by myself. And these two, friends in front were kind of going through ahead of me. And they look back, and as a lot of people do, they look back and they realize like this woman is alone at a haunted attraction. Like, who is this crazy person? And, they were so kind. They said, do you want to join us? It's okay. You can jump on in. And I have to say, they were just like, they were having a blast. They were having such a good time. And that's just really how we met. We met on a haunted trail in Rhode Island and we chatted, I walked through with them and they just were having the time of their lives. And we chatted after we finished the haunt. And I got to, kind of ask them a little bit, like I often do when I meet people in line or at different events, how did you come across this event? Why are you here? What do you love about it? I want to really learn, like, who are these fans? Who are the people who take the time or the money to go visit these things? And, I stayed in touch with Becky and Lisa, and really they were excited. They didn't know about Halloween New England at that time. And they, in some ways, I really built it for people just like them. I mean, they are the kind of people who at that time, they find the site, they see what's in their state, they want to go to everything in that state, they make a plan and they go. And they just check them all off because they really dedicate their Halloween season, their October, to seeing as much as they can. So that is like my ideal, person who visits the site, because if you are a super fan of a particular type of event, my hope is you're always going to be, satisfied at Halloween New England. But, in a lot of ways that they were using it kind of like I was using while I was creating it. And then before you knew it, we stayed in touch and they just were so enthusiastic about the site. And it just felt like a match made in heaven. I cannot believe, it's so serendipitous that I met them, because they are incredible ambassadors for the site for the past few years. And, the site has really grown significantly, especially I would say, really took a huge leap in maybe 2019. It just really, really, really took a huge, huge leap up in terms of traffic and volume and work and all of that. And, it is such a grind, all that research through the months, and to have, these people who are so passionate about the season and who love what it is we're trying to do here at Halloween New England, and they just embraced it. And it's made everything better. It's made everything sharper. I love their opinion about things. And then to be able to add more people like Corey and Rachel and to have their contributions. I mean, it's really, really priceless. It's a difficult thing to bring people into your business, because especially when really people are, we're not all together, right? We're really kind of going independently to these things, and to know and have that trust in place that they are, understanding why the site is here, who it's for, and they are representing not only Halloween New England well, but really, really gathering what they need to learn to be able to take it back to me. I mean, they are my eyes and ears on the ground. I can't be in Maine when I'm in Connecticut, so I really trust their opinion and their feedback. It really helps me guide decisions I make with the business, things that I highlight, trends that we start to see each year kind of come to be. So they're so valuable.
You mentioned the going to these things alone, and it just reminded me of a quick story. I went to an escape room alone. It was a horror-themed escape room in LA or SoCal somewhere. And I was just reviewing it, so I was alone. And they stopped me with like another group of people. And we get in this escape room. And like one of the first things I see is they printed out a photo of me and gouged my eyes out. And I was like, oh, that's me. And I say this to the group, and the group's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, oh my God, it is. And immediately they're like, who are you with? I'm like, I'm alone. They're like, you're a plant. Tell us everything. How do we get out of here? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm simply a guest. And they're like, there's no way you're here alone and your face is hanging on the wall with your eyes gouged out. Like, they just would not believe me. It was pretty funny.
Oh, so they're playing. That is part of it, right? Is like the more you start to know the people in the places that you go, or they know who you are, there's pranks. There are definitely pranks, that come about. Every year we go to Barrett's Haunted Mansion in Abington, Mass, and every year there's pranks. Usually on me, or you see pranks between different haunted attractions that they're playing. I know Fear Town and Barrett's Haunted Mansion have kind of like a rivalry going, like a friendly rivalry, to be clear,
Yeah.
and they're always pranking each other. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I don't always love being the target of them, I got to be honest, but I'm sometimes the target of them.
I just love that nobody believed me. I thought that was so funny.
Oh, for sure.
But let's take a peek real quickly at some of the non-scary stuff that becomes available during this time of year. Let's see. So as you can see, there's a lot to experience that isn't scary. I know ghost tours is really popular. They're just everywhere. I'm going to assume every state has some, right?
Yeah, every state does. Every state
Yeah.
does. And I mean, I would say not and the ghost tours that I have on Halloween New England under the ghost tour guide for each state are usually professional tour companies. So it's kind of their year-round business where they offer these tours. Um, I do make the distinction with places that offer ghost tours that are a little bit more of a one-off event, or, temporary, just seasonal. Maybe they just do 2 weekends in October, for example. So there are even more ghost tours that you can find on the Halloween events guide for each particular state. You'll find even more, but you'll see the professional tour companies, again, the year-round ones under the ghost tour guides. And it's amazing, actually, the ghost tours. Like there's one of the things I love is you'll see historical societies kind of getting into it. So they really are bringing in their local history, getting people involved, kind of fundraising, for their historical society by doing tours of the cemetery. And it's really so neat to see that kind of unexpected people getting involved in a Halloween event in that way. And I just love that. It really is like an everybody holiday, every age, every style of enjoyment. It really is. It's a joyful holiday. Obviously, I like scary things, but that's joyful to me. Yeah, and
Pumpkins are
there's really
joyful.
something for everyone.
Yeah, pumpkins are joy. Like I love a good pumpkin farm, and I know
Oh
you
my
have
gosh.
lots of those sorts of things. And once again, there's just something for everyone. It's so fantastic. But one of the cool things when you run HalloweenNewEngland.com is you get some pretty unique opportunities, and this is one of them. Uh, can you talk a little bit about what was going on here?
Well, this is my contribution to the Halloween industry. I'm very much a behind the scenes gal, I don't ever want to act in a haunted house or anything of the kind. But this was kind of cool. There's a horror prop special effects company. They are based currently in out west, and it's called Ghost Ride Productions. And I had the opportunity to fly out when their workshop was in Seattle at the time. And I kind of combined it into a vacation out to Seattle, and I was invited to become a horror prop. So they did what's called a life casting. So you can see kind of in that, they put me in a bald cap, and in that picture, they kind of started with my head. They covered my head and they did like a casting of my head. And then you can see once the head came off, then they did my body. And then eventually I became what's known as the Alexa prop from Ghost Ride Productions. And there's a variety of different iterations of this. So some of them have a head, some of them don't have a head, some of them spurt blood, some of them are frozen, some of them are burned, some of them are, very realistic. And, one of the treats that I have this season, you talk about, that reference of like Easter eggs when you go to an event. This is like an Easter egg for me when I go to an event, and sometimes I come in and I say, oh, there I am in the corner or on the floor. And I'll never forget the first time. And a lot of people that Ghost Ride Productions is known for their incredibly realistic and very high quality horror props. So it's, it's the kind of stuff that's going to be around for a while. It's really, really well done. And the first time I remember seeing myself in a haunted attraction was when I went to Barrett's Haunted Mansion one year, and I walked up the stairs, and there I was sitting at the top of the stairs in the corner. And there's so many different varieties, so many different variations of the Alexa prop. I think I was at Barrett's last year, and I didn't even know there was a version of my body in like an Easter basket. So I absolutely, it's such a kick out of it. Sometimes I'm at Haunted Overload, and I always look for where am I going to spot myself. And it was a real honor to be able to do this. And it is such a treat to see what Michael Chaley over at Ghost Ride Productions, which new versions he will come out each year to kind of keep things fresh for the people in the industry. And I see it everywhere. In fact, my husband was at Hollywood Horror Nights the other night, and he sent me a picture of, he says, oh, look, you're in one of the haunts here. I think it was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre haunt. I was like,
From
oh,
Halloween Horror
that's
Nights?
great. I'm in there. So if you go there.
Was that in Orlando or Hollywood?
In Hollywood. Yep.
Oh wow, I've done it already. Oh gosh,
Yep.
now I want to go back and see you in it. I'm going
Yeah.
to Orlando in a little bit to see it there. Maybe you're in it there as well. That'd be awesome.
Well, I was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre haunt.
Oh,
So
all
that's
right,
the one
very
maybe to
cool.
look at if there's a similarity.
I love it. So I'm gonna leave this photo up just because I love it so much. But let's talk about this year's trends a little bit. What are you finding this year when it comes to the Halloween season?
Wow, trends this year, let's see. I would say it's not so much this year as sort of an increase in the trend that I'm seeing. One thing I really love the past, let's say 2 or 3 years, is more Halloween variations in the arts. So for example, I'm going to be going to see a ballet production of Dracula up in Beverly. So that I'm really looking forward to. As I mentioned, the Edward Scissorhands ballet on screen. I'm going to be doing, there's a company called Escapism Productions in Hartford, and they always team up with a local historical property, and they're doing one called The Vexed Visitation, and they can bring a theatrical element into it. So it's very immersive theater with kind of a spooky twist to it, where people are kind of observing these theatrical scenes as they walk through a historical building. And, I love seeing that kind of stuff. That is really something I'm seeing more and more of. There's a theater company up in Lincoln, New Hampshire, maybe Lincoln, New Hampshire, or Conway, I can't remember. They're doing something called Ghost Light, and they're a theater company, but they do a kind of a Halloween, an annual Halloween event where they're bringing a theatrical walkthrough, so they really are taking a theatrical angle to it, but, theming it out for the season. So it's a little bit less of like, we're here to scare, which is maybe how haunted attractions approach it, and really coming at it from the arts and seeing how they can interpret Halloween essentially. So and again, as I mentioned, like the live accompaniment to, silent horror films, that I love seeing that. And that does seem to be increasing too. There's also like a candlelight Halloween. Some people may have seen that through social media. I was able to go to that last year up in Nashua or Manchester, New Hampshire. And they, that was really nice too. It was, all, it was horror movie soundtracks that they were playing. So they're playing The Exorcist, they're playing Nightmare Before Christmas. They're playing all these things with a quartet, and they usually hire a local quartet, so they're supporting local artists, even though it's, I think, an international company, but they kind of find local performers to be able to present a musical selection for about an hour, and they do it all with like candlelight all across the stage, and is very interactive. It's not like a very stuffy kind of environment. I really give them a lot of credit for, making it very, very accessible for people to go to listen to a string quartet. And, one of the things I found so remarkable is, again, the way that they really brought the audience into it. They would kind of introduce each song. They would ask people, do you recognize it? Shout it out if you know it. It was very, again, very interactive, really not that kind of barrier that you might see if you were to go in a typical situation to see a string quartet. And they asked people to raise their hand who's ever been to, to see something like this before. Not speaking to like Halloween, but speaking to like, have you ever listened to a string quartet, And like the majority of the people had raised their hand that they had never been to something like that. And I thought, that's the kind of stuff I want to see. You really do, yes, Halloween might be the theme, but you're just giving a hook to get people to enjoy and support the arts. Another way is a lot of different, you see my kind of Evil Dead foam chainsaw there. There was Evil Dead, the musical last year, which was so fantastic. That was really interactive. You see a lot of like horror musicals, about Lizzie Borden, that one's going up. There's a theater company up in Maine. So I do see, I think, the arts embracing Halloween and horror a little bit more. I love that. The theater company up in Maine, every year they do a different horror theatrical production. So last year I went up to go see The Exorcist play. Oh, it was just so much fun to see that. I know they're doing Lizzie this year. It's up in Bangor, Maine. If anyone is up there who wants to go check it out. They've done Evil Dead as well previously. So, that's something I really just love. And I do feel like this season, Halloween New England's team is actually, I think, prioritized trying to support more of these types of events just to get them on people's radar. We know that they're happening. We've been able to see them. I know my team's going to head out to see Sweeney Todd in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I think they just opened last weekend, so we're going to be going there soon to check out that. So, anything we can do to use this platform to be able to support the arts, that's really important for me. But also to, again, people who come to Halloween New England kind of already love and enjoy Halloween. They're looking for something new that they didn't know about before. And if I can, introduce people to go to see a ballet for the first time, or go see a string quartet or enjoy a musical. Maybe they didn't know that they liked musicals, but something about Sweeney Todd sounded really intriguing and they wanted to go check it out. I mean, that to me is so important and something that, is very near and dear to my heart. So I would say
Perfect.
it's a trend and something I want to support and hope everybody knows about. And it's more and more every year.
Excellent. We only got about 5 minutes left, so let's answer a few questions real quickly. Leza wrote in wanting to know, is there a way to search for things geared more towards an older teen or adult on your website? Is there a way to separate it by age at all?
Not currently in like a filtering way. One thing you could do, for example, is, and it's primarily with attractions. So if you were, let's say you were looking for a teen who wanted to go to a haunted house and you're not really sure, like, are they ready for it? What to do? So what I would recommend is go visit in your state. Let's say it's Massachusetts, you click on a haunted house. There's a whole section on each of those attractions that will say, if I'm aware of what that age range is, like if it's recommended for 10 and up, for example, that'll kind of give you a sense. If it's like 14 and up, it's probably a little bit more intense. If it says 10 and up, it might be suitable, maybe even for a middle schooler. And so probably a more appropriate for someone who's a little bit older. So when you look on things like the attractions, it will, if I can find that information, I will include it there, what that recommended age is. But I'm taking that not from my opinion, I'm taking that from what that attraction says. So, that would be something to think about. And, I would say when something is not suitable, like, let's say content-wise, sometimes there's a particular Halloween event and it's, might have some gory content or something like that. Usually event producers are pretty good about mentioning that, that it's, might have some iffy content, parental discretion advised. So that would be just something to look at. But if I can find it, I try to include it.
Great. We've only got a few minutes, so let's bang through these ones real quickly. I'm going to plug this one from Susan. Each year, our Salem, New Hampshire Historical Society hosts a soul stroll in our center burying ground. This is the 7th year guiding visitors through the cemetery as they meet our sleeping residents through stories and tales based on local history. The event is free and will be held October 20th from 3 to 5 p.m. Where do you have an email address where she can send this info to so that you can possibly put it on the
Right
site?
on the homepage. So right on the homepage of Halloween New England, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see submit your event or submit your attraction. In this case, that would be an event. So go ahead and submit your event. Send it in soon because, the more information you include on there, it does take me, at this time in the year, it takes a little longer to get things up just because they come in so fast and furious. And there's just so many, fingers and so many pies at this time, but I try to get batches of events up every week. So go ahead and send it in.
Perfect. And quick answer here. What's your favorite scare element in a haunted trailer house?
I mean, I love details. I think details are great, but I gotta say, who doesn't like, well, I don't like clowns, so I don't know if that's a favorite, but I love breakaway doors, when you're kind of walking through and the doors, they look like a wall and they just slam open. I love that element. I do love a good chainsaw chase. Yeah, I would say those.
Excellent. Somebody else asked about how to get their thing listed. Once again, go to the website, halloweennewengland.com, go to the homepage and you can submit there. And final question, you were talking about the art sort of events. How are those listed on the website? What would they search under to find kind of those more specific sorts of things?
Those are events. So
those are under events. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like a category like a ghost tour or pumpkin patch. It's the events is kind of the biggest bucket of everything. So yes, I can't say enough about how clever some of these events are. So please go check out, the Halloween events in your state or in neighboring states. It really is worth traveling for these things. I do vet things. I can't see everything to vet them, but if something looks a little shady or iffy, I'm not going to include it. But there's so many really, really wonderful events to support the arts. Please do go check them out. And I encourage you to try something you wouldn't think you would normally go to, particularly with respect to events. Just go try something new. You might be delighted. You might discover something that you did not even know, like kind of brought all the things, that you love about the season or you love about the arts together. I would really encourage you to try something that is so outside your box. It's such a treat.
Excellent. I'm going to plug this real fast before I give the mic back to Mina. Tomorrow night, Friday night in Salem, Massachusetts, the I Put a Spell on You masquerade. For anybody out there who might be a Hocus Pocus fan, we are throwing this epic party with some witchy sisters performing live and a huge DJ dance party and bars and souvenirs and all that fun stuff in a shooting location from Hocus Pocus. So join me at Old Town Hall in Salem, Massachusetts. Visit tinyurl.com/Salem Party 2024 for tickets and more info. And with that, I'll give it to Mina and Alexandra. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's such a treat.
Wow. Well, Alexander, you are definitely very detail oriented. That came across. Well, I thank you both. As always, I put the information about the next session in the chat, and I just wanted to put a plug in for two things for us. We're doing another special effects makeup session on October, I think, 16th. And for teens, if you're looking for a teen event in person, we are actually hosting a teen scare trail at the library on October 25th. So keep a lookout on our website for those. Jeff, thank you again. And it is always a pleasure. And I hope you all have a very spooky month until I see you again. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Bye.